Welcome to the VMO Show. I'm your host, Stacy Harbaugh, and with me in the studio today are Nick Heisey and Ben Hlaben. They're both residents or property owners of the greater Manawa area, and they're here to talk to us about what happened when the Little Wolf River flooded, a dam broke, and made a big impact on their community. They're also going to share their ideas for the future of the Little Wolf River and what river restoration may look like in their community. Thanks so much for joining me, Nick and Ben. Say hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, good day. So I'm so glad you could join me today because I think that the things that have happened in your community and to the Little Wolf River are things that more people in Wisconsin should know about. It's, definitely a shocking thing that happened when the flood happened in the river. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about what happened, when it happened, and how that impacted your lives. Things changed a lot that day. So why don't you paint a picture of what happened when the flood hit?
Sure. Yeah, it was early July. Got about 8 inches of rain in a matter of a couple hours. And obviously all the hillsides that surround Manawa, all that water came into town. It flooded the nursing home. They had to be evacuated, several homes as well. But that was actually before it kind of hit the mill pond. But then all that water ended up in the pond, and the dam wasn't able to hold all that back. It actually started kind of eroding a dirt embankment along the side of the dam. The cement structure stayed put. But the dirt embankment on the side started eroding, and there was no stopping it at that point. All that water came down rushing through the river. The Manawa Rodeo was going on, the big event of the area there. They had to evacuate all the cows, all the people, all the horses, and everything like that had to be evacuated because that lies right along the river down farther. That all happened successfully. There's very minimal damage, actually. The river itself handled it pretty good. It obviously shook people up. I mean, the mill pond was important. It was part of the logging industry way back in the day. It was a grist mill as well. So the dam had its use at one point. When it went out, it was producing electricity, not a lot, but it was doing some. So obviously this concerned everybody in Manawa. A lot of people lost their frontage because the pond shrunk considerably down to just the river channel. So plenty of people in the city lost their river frontage. That's obviously not ideal. Some people upriver, that all changed. It's a little bit shallower river now. So it definitely affected plenty of people, and a lot of them have their concerns about it. Most people, I think, want their water frontage back. They don't necessarily see both sides of it. I myself look at that and I saw opportunity. So, yeah, it's been an interesting time for sure. We've learned a lot about dams ever since then. Can you add anything there?
Yeah, I mean, just to add, like we were at our cottage when it happened. It was the rodeo weekend. It was 4th of July weekend. The rodeo is like Manawa's big, annual event. It's a big time fundraiser for them. Draws a lot of people into town. And we were up at our cottage, and my son had gone to the rodeo that night on Thursday night, and the rain started Thursday night. He actually got rained out of the bull riding event, which is the last event of the evening, and they ended up leaving early. But like Nick said, I mean, they just got a tremendous amount of rain in that short period of time. And another thing to note was like the ground had already been pretty saturated. We had a good amount of rain leading into that, so there wasn't a whole lot. It was ripe for a lot of runoff to happen. So, but yeah, it was crazy. And we tried to go in town because we have a business in downtown that we're renovating, and we were curious if the flooding had affected it, but they had everything pretty much blocked off, and they were really focused on getting people, to safety out of the, the floodplain areas along the river where the rodeo ground was, and all of the animals too. So, but thankfully there was, no loss of life. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of sediment washed downstream from that. That dam was there, that mill pond was there for over 100 years, collecting silt and sediment. Unfortunately, washed downstream, pretty
there's some new sandbars downstream. That's for
Right.
sure.
So
Yeah.
that was very unfortunate, and I know a lot of the landowners downstream were impacted by that.
Pretty hectic for a while.
Wow. Well, as our, climate gets warmer and wetter and we start seeing more of these, quote unquote 100-year rain events, this is a huge impact of our weather on communities like Manawa, communities that are built around these man-made structures like dams. And, when the dams go, when that infrastructure fails, it makes a huge impact on people. It sounded like that was a lot of people's worst day.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, for sure.
But potentially a silver lining in the end.
You say that there's a lot of opportunity to be
I think so.
had there for sure.
I think so.
So, tell me, what does the area look like now around the place where the dam failed, but also where that mill pond was? Can you paint a bit of a picture of what it looks like right now?
So the dam structure is still there. Will have to be removed at some point. Where the side where it eroded, there's a library near there. So they were worried about that potentially getting washed in as well. Since then, that's been stabilized, riprap along there and everything. Pilings were put in. So that's stable now. The pond bed itself is grown up into various weeds, if you will, and there's definitely some native stuff growing in there as well. We noticed some native wildflowers when we were kayaking through there this summer. Personally, I think it's beautiful. I think there's a lot of animals around in there now. My wife's aunt lives on the pond. She sends pictures of deer that are walking around in the pond bed, and foxes are running around out there and everything. It's different. I don't think it's worse. I don't think it's a bad thing by any means. I think it's nature restoring itself.
Ben, tell me more about what you think could be the future of the Little Wolf River in that Manawa and beyond area. Now that that terrible flood took out a big dam, what do you see as the possibility in the future?
Well, as a business owner in Manawa, obviously I'm interested in having people show up in town, and so I mean, I would really love to see the river stay a river and offer paddling type opportunities, river trail potentially.
And what is explain to our listeners who might not know, what is a river trail?
Well, there already is a trail that runs along the Little Wolf River through Manawa below the dam, and it's basically just a walking path that kind of follows along the river, and you can go down there and enjoy some nature and some peace and quiet, kind of right in town almost. Mm-hmm. But there's possibility to extend that trail up through the old mill pond site. Obviously there's some planning and whatnot that would have to happen there, but we've brought in other communities. We talked to the city of Baraboo folks who went through a series of dam removals over the course of like 20 years, and it's almost 30 years since their first dam was removed. And they talk, the people that came and talked to the community talked about how surprised they were at the appeal to the walking trails and the silent sports and the paddling and the health, that it brings back to the community, and they seem to really like it. I would love to see stuff like that. I mean, the Little Wolf River above and below the Manawa sections, I mean, it's already gets a good bit of paddling traffic.
Gorgeous area.
It's gorgeous. People will come up there for the Threshery, which is just upstream in Simcoe, and a lot of people will be tubing and kayaking around those events. They have a car show.
The Simcoe Weekender, right?
The Simcoe Weekender,
I'm familiar.
Correct, yeah.
Anybody who likes rockabilly music knows about the Simcoe Weekender. Come on.
Absolutely. The Weekender is cool. And that's right on the Little Wolf River, just north of town. So
good reason to visit.
Yeah. And below, I mean, I've been on fishing trips, guided fishing trips, smallmouth bass trips, starting below Manawa and floating down towards Royalton. And so really this dam, it's not the last dam on the Little Wolf. There's one more up in
Big Falls.
Big Falls. If this dam were to stay out, I mean, the sturgeon made it all the way up to Big Falls for the first time in over 100 years.
That's
this
a big
year.
Deal.
They spawned up there.
Super cool. And I mean, this is confirmed. Like, the DNR were up there and
I've seen them with my own eyes while kayaking up there, close to it anyway.
Wow.
So, and the fishing, but yeah, I just feel like, it's different. Obviously, I mean, the town is used to having a mill pond there and being able to go out there and ice fish. But quite honestly, I mean, I didn't really spend a whole lot of time on that mill pond in the summertime just because of the
The weeds would
amount
get
of weeds.
so bad. It was actually full of invasive weeds. Curly pond weed is in there, Eurasian milfoil as well. And I feel that spreads out the other areas too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Ben was saying, the river's a great river. The fishing's pretty decent in there, smallmouth. The sturgeon, I mean, it's a great spawning ground. There's several areas they can spawn along the whole river. They got to access areas they haven't been into for over 100 years, 120 years, like 1870
Wow.
was the last time they could get up there. And they went right back up, first opportunity they had. And as of September, there were still 2 sturgeon, I believe it was, up river from the pond. They stayed up there for whatever reason.
We had some fisheries. So we've been trying to do a little bit of, I don't know, public outreach education. So we had, like I said, we had the Baraboo folks come up and kind of just share their experience with dam removals and whatnot. But we also had the fisheries biologists come and give a talk about, you know, the impacts that the dam, because we heard a lot of people worried, oh, the sturgeon are going to go up there and they're going to get stuck. And, you know, we just wanted to kind of.
They thought the water was too shallow in some cases, but I mean, rivers do river things, and they
Right.
scour new holes and new channels.
Exactly.
Wild.
And
So-
it's doing that. It's restoring itself. It's pretty neat to watch.
Wow. Well, and we know that nature has a way of figuring things out and restoring itself, but in this case, we do know that there's going to have to be some human support behind
Yep.
letting the river be a river again. So tell me a little bit about what you see as being some of the next steps to trying to aim for a better river restoration for the Little Wolf.
Yeah, so, you know, we were talking originally about the environmental impact and the fish and the tourism and whatnot, but then the other flip side of that is the cost and the time that it's going to take. As a business owner and a taxpayer in Manawa, I mean, I would rather see my tax dollars go towards improving things that are beneficial to all and for the longer term benefit of the community. So, you know, if you weigh all of those things into rebuilding the dam, the cost just doesn't seem to, you know, make sense to me anyway. So
It's around $8 million to redo the dams, what we've heard so far. A small town like Manawa doesn't have the tax base to afford that. So they definitely need outside help. And I personally question if that's helping anything. I mean, we're shooting for a cleaner environment, a healthier world, aren't we? And we're going to go ahead and put this dam in place that created all these pollutants to begin with, all the sediment that was trapped in there, the methane gases that creates. I think we move forward and do something that we haven't been able to do, and that's give back to nature. When do we ever get a chance to do that?
Yeah, that's rare. So Ben, I bet you've been going to a lot of city council meetings to talk about this issue, because there's a lot of decisions that need to be made around funding and figuring out what's next for what's left of the dam and what's happening with the river. So tell me your experience in getting involved and, you know, talking to government, getting involved.
Absolutely. So at first, after for the first couple months, I think the city council pretty much met at the end of July. This happened on like the 5th of July. And I think the city council met later that month and voted unanimously that they wanted to pursue restoring the mill pond. So, and I hadn't really gotten involved for the first couple months. I kind of was just sitting back, taking it all in, seeing, you know, and I'm a lifelong trout fisherman. You know, I've been in trout streams and rivers my whole life. So, I mean, I have a personal reason to make it stay a river, but I wasn't willing to speak out publicly. But then Manawa has a Facebook, What's Happening in Manawa Facebook group, right? And I keep an eye on that. And all of a sudden one day I saw this post that Nick put out there. And I didn't know Nick at the time. I mean, I knew of him, but
Sure.
we hadn't met. And he put something out to the effect of like, you know, hey, what would it be so bad if it just stayed a river? You know, like it's pretty cool. Like the river's recutting a channel, the weeds are, you know, all washed away, and it's you know, the water's looking really good, and the fishing, I'm catching fish, and would this be so bad? You know, and that was really what spurred me. I was like, oh, okay, there's other people out here that feel the same way. So I kind of reached out to Nick.
Yeah.
I think I just private messaged him or whatever, and we connected, and yeah, since then it was like, well, what do we do? Well, I think we need to go to the city council meeting and just get informed on what's going on and where their head is at, and just stay informed. So yeah, I started attending the city council meetings monthly, and they had a few just ad hoc meetings that were specific to the dam that they had scheduled that we attended. The other thing that I did was I started to take my drone, and I was flying my drone footage, trying to get, because I was like, man, I wish I'd have done this right after the dam went out, so that you would have seen the amount, because right after the dam went out, I mean, it was a kind of a mucky looking, ugly mess. You looked out there and I was like, oh man, it's just like a wasteland out there. That honestly kind of within a
It went quick.
couple months, there was vegetation starting to come back in. But I wanted to fly the drone to kind of just capture to see if how the river would change and if it would cut channels. But it was pretty amazing. Like I feel like that's the original channel that the river is in right now.
Yes. Yep.
And we've floated it, and you can't see a lot of the effects from the drone footage, but you know, if you get out there and you float down through it, you can see areas that are getting deeper, getting shallower, you know, where sediment's accumulating. But the river's just doing what a river does, which is kind of cool. So that was really what spurred me to get involved and then attend these meetings. There's been a lot of discussions. This whole, you know, dam, this isn't really like a dam removal where it was a planned event, right? So Mother Nature really kind of kicked this off for everybody and brought it to the forefront. It was interesting because the town of Little Wolf had an agreement, and I'm not exactly sure what the percentage that they were paying in maintenance, but they came to the city and they're like, we don't want to have any part of this anymore. You know, this was before the dam went out. So they didn't want to pay the money to keep maintaining the dam, because every 10 or 15 years they were having to do some stuff. So anyway, they rescinded their dam agreement. Well, then now, as we've gone through this process and attended these meetings, you're seeing that the town of Little Wolf is now, you know, changing their position, and they're wanting to get back involved, and you know, so which is good. I mean, you know, these types of things really bring out, you know, people, they spur people into action. So but I wanted to make sure that there was people speaking up in support of the river and Mother Nature and some of the benefits of having those free-flowing rivers.
For sure.
Because I think a lot of the people that we were hearing from were the landowners, which I totally understand. You know, you lose some land, some water frontage. You know, it goes from a pond to a river and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to speak out and be a voice for the river, because it's one of those things where, you know, if it's not me or Nick, like who else is going to stand up and do this? So,
Yep.
But like I said, I've got a long history with Trout Unlimited, and we've done stream restoration work on a much smaller scale than the Little Wolf River, but I kind of have familiarity with how rivers work and how they change over time and how resilient they can be, and how important they are to clean water. So.
Yep.
Yeah, what motivates you to get involved, Nick?
Yeah, I've been standing in that river since over 30 years. I'm 47 now, and I think it was 10 when I started fishing the river. Obviously, that was below the dam at that time. I had a lot of good fishing down there then. My wife and I were kayaking it after the dam went out, and I just looked at that, and I was like, look at this, Casey. The land or the water's getting clearer. This is nicer. I mean, all these weeds are gone out of here now. I was, geez, what if this just stayed a river? How cool would that be? I mean, it's going to clean itself up. Maybe we could turn this into a field of wildflowers. How cool would it be to have an area like that? I've never heard of any spot like that, and the pollinators definitely need it. And I thought, well, that could also help clean up the river. This river flows into the Wolf River. That needs to be cleaner as well. How nice would it be to have clean water flowing down through that? All I see is potential when I look at the dam being gone. I just see great fishing. I see good paddling, kayaking. I see a great community events. You know, you can do all kinds of things that support a river versus the pond.
Well, and this is what you need to make any kind of change, is to have that clearer vision of what something could be. You know, if everyone can get behind this beautiful future that you want to build. Mm-hmm. So one last question, you know, what's the next steps for you guys? How are you building a community around river restoration, and what's to come? I know it's kind of hard when it's you know, snowy and cold outside to be, you know, thinking about, you know, paddling in the future, but you're future oriented. So what's next?
It's trying to convince the community that this could be better, and it's definitely not easy. You got vocal landowners they have a very good reason to be upset and to want their dam back. I get that, but I don't know that they see the big picture here. I think they're thinking a little bit of themselves and not of the planet, of the future, of the whole picture there. If we could get a few people to flip on that, I think that would be a big thing. There are some landowners upstream that are supportive of it. A couple of them have joined us up. I don't know, we've got a little Facebook group called Friends of the Little Wolf River. A couple of them joined up on that. We just try to educate where we can, and it's a big hurdle. There's no doubt.
Well, I know we've got a lot of listeners who are excited to come up and visit and paddle the Little Wolf in the future. So thanks to your advocacy, hopefully we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that we're, trying to work on. We did a little bit of a river cleanup last year with our small group. Nick mentioned we had a little Facebook group or Facebook page that we started to kind of gain some support and identify people that were, like-minded. And we did a cleanup, and I think we're talking about, this coming summer having some sort of a paddle event. So keep an eye out for that. And, you don't need an event to come up and paddle. You can come up anytime. And
there's plenty of access points. There's great little shops downtown Manawa to stop into. There's food and everything like that. So it's a nice area.
Well,
sure.
Ben, Nick, thank you so much for being here today. I know we've got lots of listeners who are excited about paddling, and the good news is that no matter where you live in Wisconsin, there is probably a community organization that you could check out and learn more about the water that's in your backyard and how you can protect it. So thanks so much for listening to the VMO Show. I'm your host, Stacey Harbaugh. Thanks to Nick and Ben for being with us today, and thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.